Now, I wanted an example to share of a family in my electorate, the Cooper family. And they know that some of the opportunities being lost too well. Phil and Michelle Cooper have a 16-year-old daughter, Georgia, and she has cerebral palsy. They came to see me last year to find out what living options are available for Georgia when she becomes an adult and they become elderly. The reality is there are no options. Michelle has been told she will need to abandon Georgia if she wants to get her accommodation before they actually retire. Every time there's a report of millions of dollars wasted or lost, Phil and Michelle Cooper feel this acutely. Whether it be the CBD Metro project, where there's $500 million projects, or similar projects across every form of government, Phil and Michelle Cooper feel it. They despair that this money could not have gone to provide some support to her daughter when they are too old or not around to look after her. In fact, Michelle has said that she has often cried when she hears stories of government waste at every level. Her concern is that she will not be in a position to still be here to look after her daughter. And to me, that is a responsibility of a fair society. Salvation Army's Paul Moulds is also someone who I admire immensely. And I think everyone has to have an understanding in government of how money can be used and how desperate people are and how much need there is. Paul Moulds is someone who could do with additional funds, and he is day in, day out dealing with some of the most vulnerable youth in our society at Oasis. And to me, he's a reminder that waste is not just dollars on a press release, but the loss of an ability to potentially impact people's lives. I remember being out one night with Paul Moulds at the Wall, where he will often go maintaining a relationship with boys, girls, the lost in our society. And one particular guy, let's call him Richard, sat down and spoke to me, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "You do not know what evil is till you look into ice." And at that point, Paul said to me, "It's a pretty regular story." That story is something that he sees repeated day in, day out. And he told me what he could do with $70,000. He believes that he could transform, if he was given $70,000, he could transform every single youth that he had standing before him. So the culture of understanding some of the opportunities that sit out there, together with the lost opportunity of funds, is something that I believe a culture that we must employ. Now, all of these principles, taking the politics out of the process, having a broader sense of public value and a culture of every dollar matters, are about improving the quality and independence of decision making and better directing and protecting the finite resources of a state budget than we are currently seeing today. If executed as described, the government of the day will have additional opportunity to address issues of affordable housing, problem gambling, skills training, communication, closing the gap with Indigenous Australians, mental health and public transport infrastructure, to name just a few of the priorities of New South Wales today. Addressing these issues, particularly as it relates to the culture of the government, will be difficult, but is the only way we can improve the quality of services provided by government to its citizens. So in conclusion, I do want to leave you some words of a speech that I've just read. Some of it may be familiar. Do you believe that we can afford another 3 years like the last 20 months? Are you prepared to maintain at the head of your affairs a government which has lurched into crisis after crisis, embarrassment piled on embarrassment week after week? Will you accept another 3 years of waiting for next week's crisis, next week's blunder? Will you again entrust the nation's economy to the men who deliberately but needlessly created the worst unemployment for 10 years? We just cannot keep going the way we have these past 20 months. Now, these words were uttered by the man who this institute is named after, who in the weeks before taking office asked these questions of another audience in Western Sydney. It is not for me to say today whether these words are applicable here in New South Wales. That's an answer you can provide to yourself. I would just say that things in New South Wales need to change. I can also say that for New South Wales to play its part in the 21st century economy, it needs to do the basics right. And if it pursues the agenda I've outlined here today, I believe we can start to see a fairer society here in New South Wales. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Mark Lennon from Unions New South Wales. The big question is for public sector workers. Huge pressure on service delivery, as you've noted. It's not just in New South Wales, it's across all governments, increasing demand in areas such as health, education, transport. The question is, what future do public sector workers have? What level of support and respect are they going to get from an alternative government in this state?
Yeah. Well, it's huge support and respect. I mean, I noticed in the editorial of the Daily Telegraph today, there's a very nice opinion piece, or the editorial, where it says that despite the physical conditions they're facing, when there's pictures of Manly Hospital falling down, they put their hats off to the tremendous work that nurses, doctors and allied health workers are doing despite those circumstances. Our view is simple. It's a partnership. The only way we're going to turn this state around is if we all link arms and get on with it. And I think it's actually a very exciting time. To the whole public service, it is an incredibly exciting time. We are determined, should we be given the opportunity, and as we know, a day is a long time in politics, but should we be given that opportunity, we see very much being arm in arm with the public service about getting the job done. So there is nothing more than I can say than it is absolutely a partnership and something that I think is very exciting for the public service.
I'm Simon Palin from ABC TV News. I just wanted to ask you, Baird, what you think of this report that there's $360 million has been funneled away by the government for a last-ditch transport plan to remedy the poles.
Yeah, well, I'm very sceptical of secret funds. I think that, listen, the report comes as no surprise. There was a great deal of expectation around budget time that one or two of those projects may have been announced, but they weren't. It appears that they are heading towards announcing one of those as part of the election campaign or election strategy. The fundamental problem that they have is you can no longer keep on announcing things. They've got a 15-year track record of announcements. What this community wants to see is actually things being built. That's going to be very difficult to convince the community that an announcement's actually going to lead to something being done.